The next speaker is again extremely interesting topic for all of us. We've heard a lot about the presidential debates about how healthcare has been politicized and how it's become such a commercialized business at this point. So our next speaker, Dr. Nisha Pillai, is going to talk about how to put health back in healthcare. It's going to be extremely interesting. I've had a pleasure of working with her for a few years now. I went to her organization a couple of years back, and it was really nice to meet with the kids, to interact with them. And she is an award-winning physician and a diplomat in cardiovascular diseases. She's the director of cardiac services at Northwell Health Center at Ridgeview Park. She was a graduate from Kottayam Medical College in Kerala, India. And she's also a cardiovascular fellow with the Brooklyn Cornell Fellowship. She served as the director of CCV at the Brooklyn Hospital Center and also as the director of integrated health and heart and health. She's won numerous awards, extremely prestigious awards, including the AHA Women in Cardiology Award, the Tri-State Excellence Award, the Patient's Choice Awards 3 years in a row, and she's got numerous publications and presentations at prestigious conferences. Without much ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Nisha Pillai.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Arvind, for those wonderful introduction. I'm standing here before you to represent a crowd that's generally not considered very pro-holistic. Practitioners of modern medicine, for whatever reason, tend to think of the holistic approach as something of the alternative track, and we kind of shy away from it. All of us in this room think of modern medicine as very scientific, and it was in fact adopted as a science track like physics or chemistry in the 12th century when the European universities accepted it into their curriculum along with physics, chemistry, biology and any other science track. We know it did not start in the 12th century, and we know it didn't start in Europe, because when Alexander came to India in 400 BC, we had a very well-developed healthcare system established with surgeries done on most of the vital organ systems. Alexander did not have the fortune to go back to Alexandria, but Indian books traveled to Alexandria, Indian scholars traveled to Alexandria, and it was from there 300 years later that modern medicine was put forth by Hippocrates. So my talk today, or the reason Rajesh had me today here, is not to talk anything about medicine, but to kind of be a bridge between what we think of the conventional modern medicine and what a holistic approach or what we should be doing in the future, in the sense of what change we need to do in the way we approach healthcare. Because if we look at medicine over the last few centuries, the kind of advances we have made, or even in the last 50 years, doctors have been able to boast that we could pretty much replace every organ in your body with a gadget and still have you functioning normally. We are very successful in the sense that we could actually put together a human being, we could clone a human being, not even from your gametes, but from your autosomal cells. So that is the kind of advances that medicine or that scientific area has made. But that did not essentially translate into better health. We were talking about how we need to go back to the ways that our ancestors lived. So why did it not transfer to a better health? There was some lack in our understanding of what this health is. Now, where did we lose this? Because just like any other science track, we thought we could apply reductionist principles to the human system. That's why we came out with equations, we came out with formulas that we could apply across the board. But unfortunately, human system is a very dynamic system, and these reductionist principles just don't work. You know the color of your iris or the shape of your iris is not like your neighbor's. You know the 5 fingers of your hand is not the same. You know your fingerprint is different from your neighbor. So as long as we are very different in our genes, in our systems, an across the board approach is not going to work for us. So my talk today is not going to be anything like what you would expect a cardiologist to come and speak here, heart disease, hypertension, nothing of that sort. I'm going to tell you why we have to approach medical system, how we need to approach healthcare a little differently. We all know the human system is just 50 trillion cells that have come together for economic reasons, purely economic reasons, because when you were a single-celled organism, that single cell ate, that single cell digested, that single cell excreted, that single cell moved, that single cell procreated. But when we became a multicellular organism, we understood there is no reason for every single cell to do all these things, so we kind of made it a colony of cells, a colony where we shared some responsibilities. Some of the cells became, they dealt with excretion, they dealt with reproduction, they dealt with digestion. So there was really an efficient division of labor. But unfortunately, we just could not understand why these systems or how these systems work, because we just confined our understanding of health to this physical body. Now, if I ask all of you in this room, what is the single biggest miracle that's really in your first-hand experience? The real answer, if all of us have to have experience with a miracle, that's really your body, because the way two microscopic cells became this body itself is a great miracle. Now, the life process, the way these microscopic cells became a body is a miracle. The way the life process became a miracle, but the way this life process happens in the body is all a miracle. The more important thing to understand is that, now, if I ask somebody who Rajesh is, you're going to point to that body. Or if you ask who Nisha is, okay, this is the body, because we are so identified with the body. Now, but what happens when that person dies? If someone is lying down there, you never say Nisha is lying down there. You say she left the body. So somebody left the body, and that was Nisha, because now her body is lying there. Nisha is gone. So what I really want you to understand is, like, there is a different part of your existence that you don't really deal with on a day-to-day basis, and that's really the core of our understanding. That's where the core of our understanding about health needs to change. That's probably the bridge we are going to talk about today, because the essential focus of a conference like this is to tell you that you are more than your physical body. Now, there are about 5 layers of your existence that we always talk about. There is this gross physical body, which we call the Annamaya Kosham, because it comes from food. Everything that you ate made you who you are. Then there is your mental body. We know how the mental body interacts with your physical body, or how your mental body makes you work the way you are. The moment you see a person you love, your heartbeat goes up. The moment you sit before an examiner, you start choking. The moment you see someone you don't like, you start perspiring. The moment you see your mother, you feel hungry. So any emotion, anything that you think can trigger a cascade of chemical reactions in your body, which has very, very, very profound effects on your physical body. Now, we live in a world of iPads, iPhones, iPads, iPhones, but there is not a single gadget that is more complicated than this eye. Now, if you compare yourself to this iPhone, you all know this iPhone has a hardware, it has a software, and if you knew nothing about this iPhone, you know there is a power supply that is making this thing work. So exactly like your body, you have a physical body, then you have your software, which is your mind, and then you also have an energy body which vitalizes you. You have an energy body which is called the pranamaya kosham in the yogic terms. Now, there are 2 more layers of your existence. I will not go into the depths of those, because that is out of this cosmic world, and that is really not in our realm. But these 3 components of your existence, you need to understand in order for you to have a healthy body or a healthy existence. Now, that's really what I'm going to focus on in my talk today. Now, why do I need to tell you about these 3 layers? Because every doctor deals with your physical body. We all give you treatments, we give you medications, whatever. What we don't deal with on a day-to-day basis, and to some extent we now deal with the mental part also, because 10 years ago I practiced cardiology. Like Ajit, I'm really happy I'm speaking after Ajit, because he kind of, his talk was kind of a precursor for what I'm going to say. Because 10 years ago, if you walked into your heart doctor's office and told them that you have hypertension, he would immediately prescribe a medication for hypertension. But today, if you walk into a doctor's office, into a heart doctor's office and tell them you have hypertension, he's going to ask you how much salt you take, how often you eat out, what you do for a job, how the stress levels at work are, how bad your boss is, how often you fight with your spouse, how good your children are, and how well you sleep, so many things, because we have started to understand you are more than that physical body, and there is a lot more to treating hypertension or heart disease than just managing you as that body. Now, into that, like the mental part, I told you how your emotions, and you actually had a talk on the science of emotions. So the emotions definitely do have, and that's our everyday experience, emotions definitely do have an effect on the way your body functions. Like, I don't need to tell you examples, you know enough situations where your heartbeat goes up or you breathe fast because you're in a particular emotional situation. You see something frightening, you want to do 1 and 2 together. So emotions are really affecting your physical body. But more than that, your energy system. Your energy system is probably the single most important key, because if the software or the hardware of this phone did not work, or if those two were pakka, if the energy part was not good, if the battery was not good, the software or the hardware is not going to work. So that pranic system is very important. And why do we need to keep these things important? Because once you align these systems, or once you make it proper, once you make it function well, the inner layers of your existence, what we call the Vijnanamaya portion and the Anandamaya portion, becomes active, or it starts functioning itself. And this is, or those inner layers are what created you in the first place. That is from where the source of creation, that is from where these two cells that were adopted from your parents, became you. That's the source of creation. And if that is the source of creation, it is by activating that you're going to heal yourself. So healing has to happen from within. Healing is not because you have a wonderful doctor out there prescribing medications. You are the person that heals yourself. So for you to heal yourself, you need to really activate those inner systems. And you activate those inner systems by aligning these 3 external systems properly. Now, I kind of gave you an intro. We're going to take a break and tell you something. A Harvard professor was on rounds one day, and she asked her kids, who is a patient? So the intern said, a man or a woman who sees a doctor is a patient. So she asked, so when do they become a man or a woman again ever? And they said, or rarely ever, if ever. So that is what, once a man or a woman sees a doctor, they never become a man or a woman again, because that's what we do to you. We send you for tests, we give you a diagnosis, we give you medications, and then on and on, you come back in 3 months. I'm not saying this to detriment what I do every day, but this is what happens. I want to tell you the story of a South Indian actress. She happened to be here in New Jersey for about 5 years, and she went back to India. She was absolutely healthy, perfect, beautiful, no problem, started acting in movies, and just happened to run into one of her old friends who was a doctor. And this guy said, oh, you're 45, you have a little hypertension, why don't you do an executive cardiac checkup? So she just went, executive cardiac checkup, and she ran on a treadmill for 12 minutes. At the end of that 12 minutes, she developed some ST depressions on her EKG, and lo and behold, it opened a whole cascade of a big Pandora's box, because now this guy is telling her to go and do an angiogram. So she frantically calls me, Nisha, please take a look at my EKG, I have to go for an angiogram. Fortunately for her, she also consulted another doctor who happened to be her mother's cardiologist, and both of us told her, forget this thing. This is a completely non-specific test in a woman who has run 12 minutes and is asymptomatic at 45. We did not allow her to do anything more. But, that's like one case. But there may be 50 other people who go for an angiogram based on a test like that. So I'm not saying that all angiograms are wrong, but a lot of these tests are probably not what you need to do. And that understanding is very important. Especially because I'm looking at a crowd around, at that age where you have hit a little blood pressure, you hit a little cholesterol, and you start panicking about it, and then you start getting tested, and then you start taking medications and things like that. Now, we all talk about ancestors who lived to 108 years, and then just one morning, he just went walking, came back home, had a little chest pain, and he died. We talk about grandmas who were 95, was working in the kitchen the day before, and then just found dead in sleep. And these are people who never ever saw a doctor in their life. These are people who walked, like Ajit was saying, they walked to wherever they want to go. They ate home cooked food. They had a lot of children. They had half the luxuries we had, but they were very content. They were very happy. They were very healthy, and they never saw a doctor. Now, if I ask you, so what do you need to do to become healthy and happy like them? I know you're all going to say, okay, start eating an apple a day so that you can keep your doctor away. It's not about. In fact, you need to keep the doctor away to some extent, because there was this very frightening study that came out in the Journal of American Medical Association in 2000, July 28th edition, saying that, I did say, the topmost reasons, the leading 2 reasons for death in this country is heart disease and cancer. What he did not say is what the 3rd reason for death in this country is. Obviously, being a pharmaceutical person, I don't expect him to say that. But the 3rd leading cause of death in this country is doctors and iatrogenic procedures. I'm not saying we kill people, but unfortunately that's the truth. Doctors and iatrogenic procedures account for the 3rd leading cause of death in this country, accounting for 225,000 deaths a year. And of this, about 100,000 deaths a year is because of medication side effects. Not even medication errors, they are properly prescribed medications, right doses, right case, right approach, everything. But still medication side effects account for 100,000 deaths a year. So that's what chemicals do to your body, just be aware of it. So that is really why as doctors or younger doctors like me start to think differently, because, like I said, 10 years ago this country we would just prescribe like that. But today, 10 years ago, all tertiary care hospitals had state-of-the-art coronary care units. Today, all tertiary care hospitals have state-of-the-art meditation rooms. If you go to a good hospital, they do have meditation centers in every single hospital. It's a big change in this country, right? The understanding. Now, yoga has been, in every corner you have a yoga center. There's a little bit of a problem, which I'll come to that, but there is a little bit of understanding about what health is. Now, when Hippocrates originally came up with this modern medical system, his idea was also a holistic approach. I'm not saying that modern medicine had a different approach to health. He actually did say the job of a doctor is really to cure seldom, comfort often, and console always. Okay, but unfortunately, somewhere along the training or somewhere along the years, we kind of started believing our job as doctors is to cure always, comfort never, and console seldom. That's what we do, unfortunately. Kind of become busy, we think we cure. But if you look at Webster Dictionary and what is the definition of cure? Cure is about taking back to the original situation. And if you have a common cold, kind of blow your nose a million times, all your cells are dead, you're never going to go back to your original state. So there is no cure. Nobody is going to, irrespective of having the best doctor in the world, nobody is going to be able to cure you. So our approach needs to be to heal. And heal is to make a person feel whole. How do you make a person feel whole? You can be whole only if, like I said, all these 5 layers of your existence is really well. And the inner 2, let's leave that, because that's really not something you can manipulate from outside. But the outer 3, you definitely need to work on. And that is where we are actually moving towards preventive health these days. So Ayurveda says the job of a doctor is swasthya rakshita, because preserve the health of the well. The doctor doesn't need to do anything more. So we don't need to complicate your health. We just need to preserve the health of the well. So if you think at this age, now is the time that you should preserve your health, because if you think you are healthy and you are able to preserve it, you will be healthy. Now, how in the next session, next part of my talk, I'm going to dedicate to giving you a few points on how to preserve your health. Now, we're going to go from the outer to the inner layers now. Sorry, from the inner to the outer layers, because the innermost layer, the pranamaya kosham, let's focus on that, because I'm sure you have had enough talks on yoga. The energy body, pranamaya kosham is the energy body that vitalizes your gross body and your mental body, and that is really what yoga does. And unfortunately in this country, they talk about bridge pose, boat pose, awkward chair pose and whatever. So people think, the moment you say yoga, you have to twist your body into some weird position and keep it like that, so that's yoga. That's not at all yoga. Yoga has been reduced to another exercise program because of a lack of understanding, and it's the job of all of you here who are part of this such a holistic project to go out and tell people yoga is essentially to manipulate your energy body in a way that the inner layers of your existence becomes accessible to you, or it is a process which kind of links the outer two layers and the inner two layers, so you really become a whole being. So with that, at least go home with that understanding today. Now about your mental body. Mind, as you all know, is just the society's garbage bin. When I say it's the society's garbage bin, whatever you carry in your mind as thoughts is what the society has put in you. Every situation that you come across, every person that you meet, every experience you have had is going to be stored in yourself as memories. And all these memories, you pull it out and you work on it every now and then, and all these thoughts make you make it complicated, your mother-in-law makes it complicated, your husband makes it complicated, so it just becomes a mess that you cannot come out of it. Now when I say it's the society's garbage bin, I'm not saying it in a bad connotation. If you think of a house, probably the single most beneficial instrument in that house is the garbage bin. Right? It's very useful, provided you only open it when you need it. If you open it when you need it and use it to your advantage, it's really good. The problem here is a lot of people choose to sleep in the garbage bin. So, if you sleep in the garbage bin of your mind, you're going to stink. Remember that. Because we are really so caught up in our thoughts, we are really so entangled in our emotions that we just can't come out of that garbage bin. So anytime your mind bothers you, anytime your thoughts bother you, anytime you seem to be caught up in this web of thoughts, understand your garbage bin needs to be opened only when it needs to be opened. And if you can do that, you will remain healthy. A lot of people come and ask me, how do I control my thoughts? You don't need to control your thoughts. The thoughts are like waves. It's going to happen in the periphery. The only thing is you need to be able to detach and go a little deeper into your existence. And that's where all these techniques that they teach you is going to help you. Now my job as a physician is really not to talk much about the mind or the energy body. I know there are other experts who's going to talk to you about bliss body and stuff like that. Let me tell you about the physical body. So I did say about things that you should do to control your hypertension, control your cholesterol and stuff like that. I'm going to give it a totally different perspective for you to understand. You all know your body is nothing but the 5 elements, the Panchabhutas. So if you understand your body as the Panchabhutas, and you can manipulate your Panchabhutas in a way that it is, if you look at your body, your Panchabhutas, if you look at the universe, that's Panchabhutas too, nothing else, right? So if you understand you are but when you look at the universe, it looks like the universe is a huge thing and I am a little being sitting here in the corner of New Jersey. How do I become the universe? But essentially, universe is just a magnified you. And if you understand that your life should be in a way that you align yourself to the cosmos or you align yourself to the universe, then everything becomes accessible to you. Health, well-being, enlightenment, anything you want will become accessible to you, and that's how you should live your life. Now, how do you live a life like that? Again, we're going to approach that really from the perspective of the Panchabhutas, because food. Let's take food first. Because 2 cells became this huge body only because of food, and that's why the famous biblical verse, "Dust you are, and to dust you will go back." So not to say that you came from earth, somebody put earth together and made you. It's the food, it's the earth that made this body happen. And what is good food? Now he did mention the only problem is human beings are probably the only being that does not know what to eat. If you look at a little puppy or a kitten, they know what exactly to eat. When a dog has a stomach ache, it will go and eat grass. So every being in this universe has an intelligence to know what is good for its body. But human beings are so confused. Every single day I hear this, what should I eat? Should I be vegetarian, non-vegetarian, vegan, omnivore, carnivore, pescatarian, whatever. So we seem to not know what we have to eat. If I can tell you one thing, eat what is closest to life. Because everything that has life will give you life. Okay, so that's where this whole thing about whole food and grains and nuts and all these came. So whatever can preserve life, eat that. That's why we tell you to germinate seeds and eat, because when the germ comes out, that's life coming out right there. So anything that has prana in it is going to give you prana. So anything closest to nature. Fresh food. You know why Western dietitians don't like Indian vegetarians? Because they call it contaminated vegetarianism. We all say, oh, I'm vegetarian. But unfortunately, your mom cooks your vegetarian food so much that there is no prana remaining in it. You cook and cook and cook and cook, your leaves are all dead. So try to eat fresh as much as possible. Nuts, grains, leafy vegetables. Closer to, if you want to saute it a little bit, add your masalas, that's fine. But closer to nature, closer to life. That's good. Now, how much? He said, eat less. When you are 40, eat half of what you ate before. Because I know all of you are overeating. I'm sure you're not eating half of what you ate before, right? When you reach 40, you should eat half of what you are eating, what you were eating before. In the yogic terms, they say, eat 24 mouthfuls. So you can imagine it should be 12 mouthfuls in the morning and 12 mouthfuls in the evening, right? You'll kill somebody. But 24 mouthfuls, and that too chewed 24 times. You know why? Because that's how good alkaline saliva is. So anything that maintains your alkalinity is good for your body. So 24 mouthfuls chewed 24 times. But forget all that. At least drink some lemon juice in the morning. Eat less. Things that we can do. Now, another thing I want to tell you in this context is, how much do you sleep? He said, rest well. Get proper rest. Now, the problem is, especially when it becomes winter, if you have nothing to do, what do? Sleep, right? Or just lie down, simply lie down. It's not even sleeping. So you should sleep. You should sleep 8 hours, you should sleep at least 6 hours, get good rest. But don't lie down just for the sake of lying down. It's a bad habit, because intelligence developed when animals became two-legged from four-legged. So if you stand erect, your intelligence develops, or sit erect. That's why a lot of yogis don't even lie down and sleep, they sit and sleep. So whenever possible, stay up. Don't lie down just for lying down, because you have nothing else to do. Don't go and lie down. So that's one thing. Sleep well, rest well, but don't lie down because you have nothing else to do. And now, number 2 is water. We're going to talk about water. There's a whole lot of research now about water, because water is probably going to be the single most scarce element in the universe. Oh, before I go to water, let me tell you one thing about Earth. We all know grandparents who would walk bare feet to the temple, right? Where they all went in the morning and they walked bare feet. So to get the benefit from Earth, you should actually stay in touch with Earth, and that's something we don't do in this country, and that's exactly why I need to tell you about this. Because they would walk bare feet. There is not a single organ system in your body that's not represented in the dermatome of the plantar fascia. So on your foot, on the feet, on the plantar side of your feet, every single organ system is represented. So if you walk bare feet on stone, it really has the benefit of acupressure. So whenever you can walk bare feet, whenever you can go and garden in the soil, stay in touch with the earth, with your hands. And that's really why yogis would dig big holes and kind of bury themselves up to the neck, because they are coming in touch with the elemental earth. And when you do that, it kind of rejuvenates your system, it kind of reorganizes the elements in your body, your copper, your zinc, your sulfur, whatever your body needs, some of those exchanges will happen. And this is exactly what you do when you do a mud spa. You pay $500 to do a mud spa. But that's the modern version of the yogi standing in the hole. So if you want to do that, you can do that, but at least stay in touch with the earth whenever possible. Walk bare feet, garden with your hands, things like that. Now water. A lot of research has been done about water, because whatever water was there on the surface of this earth in 1945, we will probably have 25% of that in 2020 is the prediction. So we are going to be really water scarce in the next few years. And the biggest research outcome from water researchers was that water has memory, water stores, water remembers things. And that's why if you go to, if you think of the old South Indian houses, they always stored water in a copper container, or they stored water in an earthenware container. And they even decorated those containers, right? They would put a sindoor thing, and so those containers were considered holy. And then if you think of your grandparents, they would put some tulsi leaves in their container, in the copper vessel, and they would drink that in the morning and walk to the temple. This is what I advise my patients every day who has hypertension as hydrotherapy. It's commonly called hydrotherapy among doctors. We advise this for treatment of hypertension, and we also advise this for treatment of acidity. We tell people to store water in a container overnight and drink 4 glasses and walk in the morning. That's hydrotherapy, a well-recognized treatment for hypertension. But this is really what your grandma did. But she thought she was putting tulsi in the water and then going to the temple. But those are the lifestyles that we probably need to acquire from our ancestors. Now, one thing I want to teach all of you in this room, and maybe the youngsters, when you go home, do not drink water straight from a tap. Okay, because when water flows through all those coils and at high speeds, it actually alters the molecular structure of water. And it alters the molecular structure of water to a point that it might amount to a small amount of poison in your system. So if you want to drink water, store it for 12 hours. That's recommended. So even if you cannot store it for 12 hours, store it for a little bit before you drink. Do not drink direct from your tap. Now we always ask, oh my God, that man never smoked, he never drank, how come he got cancer? Maybe water can become a poison. So remember that. Do not drink flowing water like that. Keep it stored, let it settle, because once it stays, it reorganizes its molecular structure and becomes, your good pure water. So store water before you drink. Now, air. There's going to be a lot taught to you today about pranayama, breathing. Because patients come and ask, oh, doctors always say breathe normally, and the yoga people say breathe deep. What is good? Normal breathing or deep breathing, right? Because every time we encounter a patient, we tell them, okay, everything is fine, breathe normal, breathe normal. And then you go to a yoga master and you say, every breath has to be up and down, breathe deep. What is good? Now, why is breathing so important? Because breathing is really the divine touch in you. It's the hand of the divine in you. It is the connection between the body and the being. Because if you take your breath away, body and being are 2 different things. So there is no you anymore. Breathing is what connects you. So, the way you breathe, the very way you breathe, for every mental situation, you breathe a certain way. When you see your lover, you breathe a certain way. When you see an enemy, you breathe a certain way. So if breathing is so connected to your mental system, if we take the corollary of that, if you breathe a certain way, your life experience will change. And that's what they try to employ in pranayama. So learn the proper breathing technique and try to, just by breathing a certain way, you'll be able to change the way you look at a situation. You'll be able to change your attitudes. You'll be able to change your experience of life. And they call it Kurmanadi activation, whatever. I'll leave it for the experts to explain that to you. But teach your children to do pranayama. And to all my heart patients, one thing I tell them is to alternate nostril breathe. 10 breaths through the left, alternate 10 breaths through the right. It can really balance out your system. I won't go into details of how it does that, but has been shown to be very, very beneficial in calming down your metabolic abnormalities. If you properly do pranayama, in 15-20 days you will see your heartbeat variability decreases, your heart kind of stabilizes. So there are empty benefits in controlling your blood pressure. He said how you need to stop heart disease from happening to you. If you want to stop heart disease from happening to you, just learn how to breathe. Now, the 4th thing is space. There is a space in you and there is a space outside you, and you have to be very thankful for the space for holding you up. Everything that's out there is, and you need to align the space in you to the space outside of you, because if there is, modern science have come to realize there is something called Akashic intelligence or cosmic intelligence or spatial intelligence. So if the spatial intelligence is aligned with your intelligence, whatever you want, whatever you think, whatever might happen, the cosmos might work in favor of you, but otherwise you may be tossed around a little bit. It's a little more deeper side of, but be thankful for just space. When Sachin Tendulkar has a 6, he looks up, right? Any moment of excitement, people look up, people look into space. So, there is a correlation with the space in your intelligence and the cosmic intelligence. So, consciously, if you are aware of that space holding you, it might align your system with the cosmic system. And finally, the fire. Where is the fire in you? The fire is your aura. The fire is the sense that you need the person next to you. Sometimes you see a person very cheerful, very nice, very, very enthusiastic. You feel like you want to see that person one more time. Now, sometimes you come across one person, oh my God, I never want to deal with that one. And that's the aura, that's the vibe that you give out of you, and that's the fire in you. So it's very important that you keep that fire proper. You keep that fire proper by your smile, by your attitudes, by your approach to life, and that needs to be consciously developed. You don't always come with that. I heard this uncle ask, like, how do you change genetics, right? It is not, those things don't happen just in a lifetime. They actually say, if you go through proper lifestyles for 3 generations, maybe you can manipulate your genetics a little bit. So genetic changes cannot happen overnight. But if you are born in a family that does have a genetic problem and you employ the proper lifestyle changes, maybe 3 or 4 generations down you can transfer better genes to your offspring. So it's important to understand that genetic mechanisms are not absolutely non-reversible, at the same time they're not easily altered. Now, to sum up everything that I said, I want you to believe that you cannot medicalize life. Okay, there is nothing like, oh, this doctor will fix me or that doctor will fix me. What created you is within you, and it is from that source within you that healing has to happen. Our job as doctors is just to make that a little easier for you, because there is this very famous saying in medicine that the doctor's job is to keep the patient entertained while nature heals the patient. So the nature heals the patient, or you yourself heal the patient, and our job is to make that healing very pleasant, very pleasurable for you, to keep you entertained while you do that. Now, your healing has to happen from within you. If healing has to happen from within you, those 2 core layers of your causal body, as we call it, has to be accessible to you. And those 2 layers become accessible to you only when the outer layers are aligned in a proper way. And we kind of told you how to align your gross body, how to align your mental body, and how to align your energy body so the inner layers become accessible to you. And don't live as the body, try to live in the body. Okay, understand your being is really not this, because one day this being is going to go and leave this body somewhere here. So you are not this physical body, you are something in this physical body. Now, he also said, but as a physician, I need to tell you, our job is to prevent disease. When I was a medical student, I was taught, oh, health is when you are disease free. Now, I teach my medical students, health is when you can prevent diseases from happening to you, because the entire focus in medicine has actually moved towards prevention. We are not talking about curing you after you have a disease. We are talking about you not getting that disease. And if you don't want to get that disease, you have to keep your energy system very well vitalized. And you have all the resources here. You are with this wonderful group, who can provide you. I just want to tell you, as a doctor, this body is the greatest gadget. Only if you can employ this to reach the higher possibilities of your life. Thank you all.